Hi, so when my son was born, basically one of the very first things I noticed was that he had a pretty severe tongue tie. I had had enough friends that had trouble nursing to know what it looked like, and I instantly became very nervous, but he ended up having so many more medical complexities that just kind of fell by the wayside for us. So he has a lot of developmental delays, so he actually was tube fed for most of the first year of his life. We were doing a bottle, but it was very hard, not just because of his tongue tie, but also just because of developmental problems. But his biggest problem that he had was he has something called a floppy airway. So he had a lot of trouble breathing for the first, 6 to 8 to really a year of his life. And I had always, in the back of my mind, thought maybe fixing the tongue tie will help with the breathing. But to be honest, all of the specialists at the hospital and a lot of people that we had talked to basically convinced me that it was not gonna help. But deep down inside of my mom gut, I knew that if you can't move your tongue, it's always gonna be hard to breathe. So finally at a year, I just decided that I wanted to pursue this. We started in myofunctional therapy first, and once I noticed him really improving from that, I realized how much his mouth was affecting his breathing. So just for context, basically right before we got the tongue tie release, he did a sleep study at Vanderbilt, and it was showing that he was having 58 apneic episodes an hour. So that's almost 1 a minute. So a lot of trouble breathing. We would keep a pulse ox on him all night, and 3, 4, 5, 6 times a night, his oxygen saturations would dip pretty low. So a lot of problems that very, very typical with more medically complex babies. But once again, everyone was telling me, but the tongue tie has nothing to do with it. We came in, we decided to do the tongue tie release. He was a year old, so it was definitely a more difficult experience than I think when they're a little baby, just because he was older, he understood what was going on, he was not happy about it. However, almost instantly, we noticed the breathing helping. We noticed that his pulse ox beep, the alarm wasn't going off as much anymore. Literally almost basically the day that we did it, we noticed a difference. I wasn't really expecting any difference in feeding because, like I said, most of his feeding problems were due to more developmental delays, but we did start noticing after a few weeks, he was starting to take more orally through a bottle. And once again, it was not even really on my radar that was even gonna help. We started noticing it helping. And so now it's been about 3 months since the tongue tie release, and we just did a repeat sleep study at Vanderbilt, which was showing that he had 11 apneic episodes an hour. So just once again, hard proof that it really, really helped, and how much that his mouth structure was affecting his breathing. On top of that, he's now taking almost his entire bottle by mouth. We're not using his G-tube very much anymore. And once again, that was not something that I really even anticipated, even though I knew that it could help. I just wasn't expecting it to. And so it just goes to show how much the structure of the mouth just has so much to do with his overall health.